Hey everybody, today for art you're going to be making a story quilt inspired by the artist Faith Ringgold. And I really hope you guys read the book Tar Beach that I have on my slide before doing this project, because it'll explain a little bit more about why we are doing this project. So today you're going to create a self-portrait of yourself flying anywhere you want to go. So while you're making this project today, while we start making the frame for it, make sure you're thinking about a place that you'd really like to visit or that you'd like to go to if you could fly anywhere in the entire world. So let's get started. Today for your project you are going to need the following supplies. You are going to need paper, a pencil. I'm going to be using a Sharpie as always. If you'd like to trace over your pencil with Sharpie, you can do that. I'm also going to be using an ink pen for some smaller details for my face. You will also need scissors and glue, maybe, if you want to do the same technique I did, but you don't necessarily need the scissors and glue. You will also need a straight edge. If you don't have a ruler, you can use something that has a straight edge on it, like this Reynolds wrap, or like a notebook like this, or something that has a straight edge. And also optional, if you've got something to color with, obviously, I'm using markers, and you guys can use crayons, colored pencils, whatever you have. And if you have a magazine, guys, that has just pictures or different like colors that you can cut out, you could use that as well. This is just an old magazine that I had kind of laying around with flowers in it. Just junk mail. You can use any junk mail you have, and I just cut out some of those shapes for my quilt. So Faith Ringgold is an American painter, writer, mixed media sculptor, and is best known for her story quilts. And a quilt is basically, if you think about a quilt like on your bed, like a blanket, it's basically different pieces of square fabrics or other shapes that are sewn together to make a big blanket, essentially. She's from Harlem, New York, and she's best known for her book Tar Beach. And that's a really, really awesome story about, it takes place in New York, and it takes place on the roof of this little girl, her apartment building. Her name is Cassie, and she, her wish is to fly anywhere, and she gets that wish, and she gets to fly among the stars, across the city, and it's a really magical book. So today we're going to go on a journey, and we're going to go wherever we would like to fly to. So let's get started with our paper. First thing I'm going to do, all this stuff out of the way. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use our ruler or straight edge. If you have something like this or a notebook, you can do that as well. Let me zoom in just a little bit here. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to use a Sharpie. Again, you guys can use a pencil if you'd like to trace over that afterwards. You can do that. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to push it up to the edge, and I'm basically just going to be tracing my ruler, and I'm going to hold it still. I'm going to just draw all the way across, and then go to the other side, get it to all the way to the edge. That kind of, basically you're just tracing the ruler. It kind of takes the guesswork out of where to put the ruler. So there's that. I'm going to take my ruler and go up to the edge of this side and hold it still. And then the last. Okay. And if it's not perfect, it's okay. Quilts are not perfect either because they're sewn pieces of fabric, so that's all right. So the next thing you're going to do, and if you guys are using, like I said, something like this, obviously you don't want to trace this big honking thing. It's too big, right? You want to just kind of eyeball it and just trace it where you think it might go. And like I said, if it's not perfectly straight, mine's not perfect either. It's totally fine. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to divide up our space. So I'm just going to draw, see how there's squares in the corner because these lines over, they intersected. I'm just going to draw some more lines to make squares. Now remember, you're going to be designing all of these squares. So you want to make sure they're not too teeny tiny because it will be a lot harder that way, and it might also look kind of confusing if you add too much. So you want to keep it simple And I'm just gonna finish up with a couple more. Okay, I'm just kind of planning out where my shapes are gonna go. So you have two options here. You can either just draw different patterns in each section if you would like to, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. I did a combination of that, and I also did some pieces of magazine. You can see how there's flowers and just random patterns that I found in my magazine. So all I did for that, and if you have an old magazine or some junk mail, just rip out a page. Or you can even use like pieces of newspaper with words on it if you want to do that. A lot of artists, a lot of collage artists, they do that. They take pictures and images and words from other sources, and they just cut them out and add them to their work. So I just kind of cut out like a strip of paper like this, and I'll cut off the white part on the edge, and then I'll just cut the words on. And then I just take that piece and I just cut it in half, and I have two squares. So if you decide to do that route, you can do the entire thing with magazine pieces. Ooh, that side's kind of cool too. Or you can do just part of it like I did. I'm just gonna do a couple just to show you guys. You get the idea. I just took some scraps just like this. I'm just kind of chopping off some pieces here. And like I said, if it's not perfect, a perfect square, it's totally fine. But I get it. Nobody's perfect. There we go. So I got a couple of cool squares. So far I like the way that these flowers look on my pattern. Maybe I'll stick with that idea and just kind of go with the flower thing on my patterns. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to draw using your marker or using your pencil first if you want to trace, or you can just use one of these markers if you don't have a Sharpie. If you're a kindergartner or first grader, you might want to use a washable marker, not a Sharpie. So I'm going to actually use, I don't want to get marker all over my table because it's permanent marker that I'm using, so I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to put that underneath. So it's just the back of a notebook. See? It's just some colored paper. Oh, and if you guys have colored paper like this is just a little book of colored paper. You can also use that for your squares if you want to. That's totally up to you. So for my patterns, I'm just going to keep it really simple, guys. I'm going to add some stripes maybe for that one. Maybe I will do a checkerboard, which is just lines going down and lines going across. I could do some zigzag lines, maybe going diagonally. Maybe I'll do some snail shells. Okay, you want to keep it simple. You don't want to add too much little teeny tiny detail because you'll be here all night doing just your patterns alone. You want to make sure you have enough time to do the rest of your project. Zigzags. I'm going to do a sun. Maybe I'll do some flowers. So normally I would, just cut out some pieces of magazine, but I'm just trying to add some simple designs on here. And you can repeat the same thing again, okay? When you're doing a quilt, Faith Ringgold did story quilts where you'll see the video, she did pieces of fabric. The whole thing was actually fabric. And then she added a picture in the middle of the scene of the book. And then she had some words on the bottom that kind of like illustrated or brought to life what she was doing in her illustrations. Let's see what else I can do. I'm going to do some leaves maybe on this one. Do some other stripes. I'm just keeping it super simple. Maybe I'll just do a triangle on that one. So you guys get the point. I'm not going to fill up the entire thing because I want you guys to take the time to do whatever patterns you would like. I'm sure you can come up with some amazing patterns as well. Just do a square, just kind of making it up. I'm just making up my patterns. That's all it is. I'm just like thinking about, okay, I know the elements of art. I know what lines are. I know what shapes are. I'm just going to take what I know and I'm just going to add a little bit of that to my pattern. Okay, so you guys get the idea. You're just adding a bunch of shapes and lines for your patterns. And I have a couple examples on here if you guys want to use some of my examples, or you can kind of experiment and do something on your own. So after you're finished with your frame, I used marker to color mine. Obviously I didn't color the pieces of magazine because it's already colored for you, so it makes it a little bit easier. But I used marker because I think it looks much neater and it looks a little bit more bright. But you can use colored pencils if you have them, or crayons, which you guys were given in your book bags. All right, so the next part is after you're finished with your frame and you color it all in really nicely, which Miss Gao is not going to do the entire thing because you guys are big kids and you know how to color already. I know that. You're going to add your words. So we're going to write some words to go with our illustration. Illustration means picture. So, and we're making a story quilt just like Faith Ringgold, except we're not using real fabric. So I'm gonna draw a line on the bottom of my space right here, so I have room to write. And friends, if you're kindergarten or first grade and you have trouble writing your words and your letters still, just do the best you can. All right, or you can even maybe draw some pictures instead of words on the bottom if you really are having trouble. So I would at least like you guys to write this part. If I could go anywhere, I would fly. So if I could go anywhere, I would, and then go to my next line. Make sure you leave enough room. Fly to, and then go ahead and fill that in with whatever. Obviously, so I wrote, if I could fly anywhere, I would fly back home to Rochester, New York, because I'm from Rochester, New York. That's where my family is. That's where all my friends are. That's where I grew up. I know everything there. And so in this time of year, especially with fall, and the leaves are just beautiful and they're bright, and my parents' house is right there. So I drew myself flying back home to Rochester, New York. So obviously you guys would not pick the same thing because I'm guessing everyone's not from Rochester, New York. So you're going to want to pick somewhere that you want to go. So don't just say, to Walmart or to Target or to the grocery store or to my neighbor's house. Pick some, you want to think outside the box a little bit. Pick somewhere that's really amazing that you don't go to all the time, that you don't have access to all the time. And I know we're the whole COVID thing, right now everyone's home. So this is actually a really good time to think about, where could I go if I could fly? Use your imagination. Where would you go? Would you go to a different country? Would you go to Disney World? Would you go to a theme park, or maybe family that lives in a different part of the world? Okay, so I'm gonna leave that up to you guys to fill that in. Again, if you need help, maybe ask an adult to help you sound out the word or to write it, or you can always Google it if you want to do it that way. So now I'm going to think about my picture, and I'm going to show you how to draw your person. Okay, so I'm going to use a pen because I don't think you'll be able to see pencil, but you guys can use pencil. I'm going to use a pen so you guys can see it because pencil's a little hard for you to see in the video. So I'm going to draw my little person flying above. And you guys can personalize it however you want to do it. So I'm going to draw my head first. I'm going to start in the middle at the top because we're flying above. And I'm going to draw an oval for my head. Okay. It's pretty small. It's about the size of my fingertip. And you don't want to take up too much space. You guys, if you can draw your person differently, that's fine too. I'm going to draw the neck, 2 little lines. Okay, I'm going to draw my arms. So to do that, I'm going to curve up and then curve this line up. So these are my arms. I'm going to add 5 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Curve down. And then I'm going to draw 2 lines down for my torso, which is my belly, and then a line across for my shirt. Now think about what kind of shirt you want. If you want t-shirt, tank top, I'm going to do a long sleeve shirt. So I'm going to do the line down here for my long sleeve shirt. And then I'm going to draw my legs and my feet. So I'm going to draw a straight line down, and then kind of like a B shape for the feet, and then back up again. Don't go all the way to the top. You want to leave room for the next leg. Down, B, straight. So that's the basic shape of a person flying in the air. So if you guys, again, if you can think of a different way to do it, anime, cartoons, more realistic, you can do it any way you'd like. Then you're going to think of it about this more personally. Okay, what kind of shoes do you want to wear? Maybe I'll wear some boots because it's a little chilly in New York right now. Maybe I will do, I have pants on, so maybe I have a striped shirt. I don't know, for example, add some detail. Okay, and then I'm going to think about my face. So I'm going to draw my eyes in the middle of my head, right? Our eyes are not at the top of our head. They're in the middle. I'm going to draw my eyes, maybe my eyebrows, nose. Maybe I'm smiling a little bit because I'm flying. Woo-hoo. And then I'll do my ears because my hair is going to be pulled back because my hair is always in a bun most of the time. 9 times out of 10, my hair's up. So I'm going to draw just a line from my ear to the other ear. Just some lines going up like that. And then I'm going to add my little messy bun that I always have. And there's Miss Cow flying in the air. So you guys are going to do your hair however your hair is. So if your hair is short, you might only just have to draw this line. You don't have to put a bun on top, obviously, unless you have a bun. If you have long hair, you're going to draw your hair long. If you have braids, try to draw your braids. Okay? So then for the picture part, think about the ground. If there's like, you know, mine's hilly, because there's a lot of hills where my parents live, and a lot of trees. So I drew that. So think about the landscape of it. Maybe Google the place that you want to fly to and try to get some pictures that kind of identify what that place is. So for example, if you're going to a friend's house that lives in maybe in a different part of the world, what are some things that kind of, when you look at the picture, that would kind of make you think of that place? Maybe a type of food, or the house, or the trees. I don't know, just something that kind of reminds you of that place. I would recommend Googling some images. And actually, you can Google an image and make sure you type in cartoon, because cartoon images are a little bit easier to draw than real images. So for example, I could type in cartoon pine tree, and it'll show me how to draw, you know, they'll show me a picture of a cartoon pine tree. That might be a little easier. Okay? So what I did for mine was I just drew a tree, and just pretend I drew my entire tree. I'm not going to do the whole thing. And then I just drew a line to show that there's, you know, there's something in the foreground, which is in the front, and then smaller things in the background. So the house is a little bit further away and it looks smaller, whereas this tree is closer to us and it looks bigger. And I also drew some leaves that are big because they're closer to us. They're kind of blowing around. So really think about, guys, where your place is and what different things can identify where that place is. Okay? When you're finished with your project, make sure you take a picture of it and you send it to me on Class Dojo. All right? I can't wait to see you soon.